AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because of her past behavior. I, 28F, am getting married in 6 months, and the planning has been both exciting and stressful. My fiancé, James, 30M, and I have been together for 5 years, and this wedding has been a dream for both of us. We're planning a fairly small ceremony, about 80 guests, and most of them are close family and friends. Everything was going smoothly until the guest list became a major point of tension with my family. The problem revolves around my younger sister, Emma, 25F. To give some background, Emma and I have never had the easiest relationship. When we were kids, she was always very competitive with me, and as adults, she has had a pattern of disrespectful and sometimes manipulative behavior. She has a history of showing up late to family events, making passive-aggressive comments about my life choices, and causing unnecessary drama. Most of my parents' friends, and even my extended family, have seen this behavior firsthand. A few years ago, Emma had a particularly bad incident during my birthday dinner. She got drunk, insulted several people including me and my parents, and left the restaurant in tears while accusing everyone else of trying to ruin her fun. My parents were furious, but decided not to confront her too harshly, hoping she would learn her lesson. Unfortunately, this pattern has continued. She has also borrowed money from me multiple times and never paid it back. And when I tried to have a conversation about it, she turned it into a long argument about how I was controlling her. Fast forward to now. When James and I started discussing the wedding guest list, I knew including Emma would be tricky. James has never had a close relationship with her and is worried about potential drama. I initially tried to compromise, thinking I could handle her behavior for one day. But as I thought about past incidents, I realized it could overshadow our celebration. I mentioned to my parents that I was considering not inviting Emma. My mom's reaction was immediate, shock and anger. She accused me of being petty and not giving your sister a chance. My dad was more neutral, but seemed worried about the family fallout. I explained my reasoning, her past behavior at events, the stress it would add, and the fact that we want the day to be about James and me, not managing Emma's outbursts. I also pointed out that I had tried to set boundaries in the past, but she consistently ignored them. My parents argued that Emma might have changed and that it would be cruel to exclude her from such a milestone. I tried to compromise further. I suggested that maybe she could be invited to the reception only, or that she could attend if she agreed to certain conditions: no alcohol, respectful behavior, etc. My parents said this was humiliating and too controlling. They also mentioned that excluding her might permanently damage our relationship, which is true, but I feel like our relationship has already been damaged over the years. After several tense family meetings, I made the decision to send out the invitations without her name. I did tell my parents in advance, explaining that it was a carefully considered decision and not an attempt to punish Emma personally. My mom was silent for a long time, then said, "You're going to regret this. Family is forever." My dad was quiet but didn't argue further. When Emma found out, she called me immediately. She accused me of hating her, trying to ruin her life, and being selfish. She brought up all the money I had owed her attention over the years and claimed I was playing favorites with James's family. I stayed calm and explained that this decision was about protecting our wedding day and ensuring it is a positive experience for everyone, including her, if she chooses to accept boundaries in the future. She didn't respond well and hung up, saying she never wants to speak to me again. The fallout has been complicated. My extended family is split. Some support my decision. Some think I'm overreacting. My parents are still upset, but haven't pushed the issue further. James fully supports me and says he doesn't want to deal with unnecessary drama on our wedding day. My friends are generally supportive, but are warning me that this will likely cause long-term family tension. I'm struggling with guilt. On one hand, I feel justified because I'm protecting my mental health and my special day. On the other hand, I can't help thinking that maybe I should give my sister one more chance. I worry about the resentment this may create and whether I'm overreacting based on past incidents. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding because of her past behavior, even though my parents and extended family are pressuring me to include her. The thing is, I have tried compromise and communication multiple times, but I feel like my boundaries are being ignored. I want my wedding to be a joyful day, not a repeat of past disasters. But I also can't shake the thought that family expectations should count for something, and maybe I'm letting fear of drama control my decisions. This situation has really made me question how much obligation we owe family, especially when their behavior has repeatedly hurt us. I'd like to hear an unbiased perspective on whether I'm really being unreasonable or if my decision to prioritize my mental health and the success of my wedding is justified. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a dress code dispute. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emma, 32F. Growing up, we were close in certain ways, but as we got older, our personalities diverged sharply. I'm more introverted and value practicality, while she thrives on being the center of attention and has a very particular sense of how life should be done. Most of the time, it's manageable, but the problem started when she got engaged. Emma has always had strong opinions about weddings. From the very first time she talked about hers, she stressed that everyone would follow the rules or face consequences. I thought she was joking at first, but it quickly became clear she wasn't. Invitations came with detailed instructions, specific colors for outfits, restrictions on shoes, even instructions on hair and makeup for female guests. I thought it was unusual, but I could manage. The real conflict started when she decided on the bridesmaids' dresses. Emma and I have never been super close, and I was never planning to be a bridesmaid. That said, I expected to attend the wedding, even if only as a guest. A few months before the wedding, she sent me a message with her final dress code for all guests. She wrote that the wedding would have a modern glam theme and that everyone was expected to wear outfits in a particular color palette, none of which were exactly flattering or suited to my style. I'm usually very comfortable in minimalist and practical clothing, mostly muted tones like black, gray, or navy. She was asking guests to wear pastel pink, mint green, or other bright, Instagram-friendly colors. I initially thought I could make it work. I tried to find a dress that fit her palette while still being something I felt comfortable in. Every single option I found was either scratchy, overpriced, or felt completely out of character for me. I sent her a message saying I was struggling to find something I felt comfortable in and asked if it was okay if I wore something in a neutral tone. I even offered to include an accessory in her color scheme. Her response was immediate and intense. She said that my neutral palette choice would ruin the aesthetic of her wedding, and that if I didn't comply with her exact colors, she wouldn't allow me to attend. I was stunned. I tried to reason with her, telling her I loved her and wanted to be there for her special day, but that wearing an outfit that made me feel self-conscious could ruin my ability to actually enjoy the day. She refused to budge. She accused me of being selfish and trying to upstage her wedding because I was prioritizing my comfort over her vision. Our mom tried to mediate, suggesting a compromise, like a subtle accessory or a two-toned outfit. Emma dismissed it and doubled down, saying anything outside her color scheme was unacceptable and would be remembered forever by the photographer. My friends are divided. Some said I should just wear the dress and get over it, while others said her demands were unreasonable and controlling. The day of the wedding approached, and I made the decision not to attend. I sent Emma a message explaining my position again, emphasizing that this wasn't about her or her marriage, but about me feeling forced into something that would make me miserable. She responded with a very long, angry text saying I was choosing to humiliate her on the biggest day of her life, and that I clearly didn't care about family. She also told my parents I had refused to support my sister in the one way that mattered. I didn't go. I watched her wedding on social media afterward, seeing pictures of her surrounded by a perfectly coordinated group of guests. Some of my family members texted me, expressing disappointment and calling me selfish. Others privately messaged me to say they thought Emma was being overbearing and that I had every right to make my own choice. Since then, the tension in the family has been high. Emma won't talk to me, and she has made posts on social media that clearly allude to me without mentioning me by name. Our parents are upset that there's a rift, and even though I've tried to explain that my absence wasn't an act of malice, it hasn't helped. Some extended family members have started asking me if I'm hard to please or always in conflict with Emma, which feels incredibly unfair. I'm not proud that I missed my sister's wedding, but I truly felt trapped. Wearing a dress that made me feel ugly and uncomfortable in order to avoid familial backlash felt wrong to me. On the other hand, I understand that weddings are important events and people expect support from family members. So, I worry that I may have overreacted or handled it poorly. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I didn't want to comply with her strict dress code. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house for 2 weeks, even though he needed it. So I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F, who's been dating this guy, Kyle, 27M, for about a year. I have always been close with Emma, but Kyle has never really clicked with me. I try to be polite and civil, but he has this tendency to be incredibly inconsiderate and entitled, which has caused some tension in the past. My sister is head over heels for him, so she often brushes things off, but I have learned to just keep my distance. Here's the situation. Emma and Kyle are planning their wedding for later this year, and with all the expenses, they've been really stressed about money. Last week, I got a text from Emma saying that Kyle had no place to stay for the next 2 weeks, and asking if he could stay at my apartment while he sorted things out. They framed it as a small favor, saying it would help him get back on his feet before his job starts again. Now, my apartment is small. I live alone in a 1-bedroom, and the thought of someone living here for 2 weeks sounded stressful. I'm not a messy person, but I like my routines, and having someone around for an extended period who doesn't share my habits felt like it would be a nightmare. I told Emma that I didn't feel comfortable having him stay at my place for that long. She seemed surprised and said, "He's your future brother-in-law. It's just 2 weeks. You're making a big deal out of nothing." I explained my reasoning. First, my space is tiny, and I value my privacy. Second, I don't feel comfortable having someone stay here who I haven't really built a relationship with, especially given past incidents where Kyle's helpfulness turned into him being passive-aggressive or leaving a mess for someone else to clean. Emma insisted that Kyle would be careful and that I was being unreasonable. The next day, Emma and Kyle came over to talk in person. Kyle immediately started listing all the reasons why he couldn't stay elsewhere. His friend's couch wasn't an option, his parents were out of town, and he needed to be close to his new job to get started. He said it was a temporary thing and that he would adjust to my schedule. Emma kept saying, "It's just 2 weeks. Can't you make an exception?" I stuck to my stance and repeated that it wasn't about being difficult. It was about my comfort and boundaries. Kyle's reaction surprised me. He got defensive and said, "You're being selfish. You're supposed to support family, and this is for Emma's sake. If you really loved her, you'd help me out." AITA for telling my sister she couldn't bring her new boyfriend to my wedding after she promised she wouldn't. I, 32F, am getting married in about 6 months, and I've been dealing with wedding planning stress like any normal person. But recently something happened that has left me questioning whether I'm being unreasonable. I need outside perspective because my family is split, and I can't figure out if I overreacted or if my sister crossed a line. Some background. My sister, Jenna, 28F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We grew up fighting constantly, and even as adults, we have different personalities. I'm the kind of person who likes things organized and planned out, while she is much more impulsive and spontaneous. This has caused tension over the years, but we've also been able to mend things occasionally. When I got engaged, I made it very clear to my sister that the wedding was going to be relatively small. I don't mean small like 20 people, but I wanted to keep around 80 to 100 guests because my fiancé and I wanted a more intimate and controlled setting. I also mentioned to her that we were trying to avoid a +1 free-for-all because of budget and seating limitations. Jenna agreed at the time, and we even had a conversation specifically about her dating life. She told me she wasn't currently seeing anyone and promised not to try to sneak a date in or insist on bringing someone. I felt relieved because historically, she has a habit of showing up with friends or boyfriends unannounced at family events. Fast forward a few months, my sister starts posting pictures on social media with a new guy, Mark. I hadn't met him yet, but it seemed serious based on the way they were interacting. I called her to ask if she was planning to bring him to the wedding. She laughed and said she didn't want to make it about him and that she understood the rules, so she wouldn't. I felt good about that. 2 weeks ago, however, she called me in tears. She explained that she and Mark had officially decided they were serious, and she really wanted him to be there at the wedding. I told her, honestly and calmly, that we had planned the guest list and seating arrangements based on her not bringing anyone, and adding another adult would throw things off. I reminded her of her previous promise. She started crying more and said I was being selfish and that it wasn't fair she couldn't bring the person she loved to her sister's wedding. I tried to explain again that it wasn't personal, it was logistical and a matter of planning. She then said something that set me off. She implied that because I had a control issue and liked things perfect, I was being unreasonable. I told her, as gently as I could, that we could not accommodate Mark, and if she brought him, it would cause a serious problem with the seating and potentially with catering. She hung up angrily. Since then, my mom has been calling me, trying to mediate. She says I am being too rigid and that weddings are supposed to be about love and family, not rules. She thinks I should let my sister bring Mark because of this special occasion. My fiancé agrees with me, but he also worries about the family fallout. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my sister, but I also feel like this is about respect and following through on promises. I planned this wedding carefully, and suddenly adding another guest could lead to stress, extra costs, and potentially awkward situations with other people. I even offered her a compromise. She can have Mark at the rehearsal dinner, or we could do a special private lunch after the wedding so she can celebrate with him, but she refuses. Here's where I start second-guessing myself. My cousin said I should just let her have her happiness for one night, and another friend suggested that not allowing her boyfriend could cause years of resentment. I see their points, but I also feel like she already agreed to the rules, and it's unfair to me and my fiancé to change things last minute. So, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her new boyfriend to my wedding even though she insists it's important to her. I'm stressed because I want my wedding day to be happy and smooth, but I also don't want to come across as cruel. I try to handle it calmly and offer alternatives, but she refuses. I also feel like my family is slowly turning against me, saying I should just be flexible. Am I really the bad guy here? Or is this just a case of my sister expecting to bend the rules because she's emotional? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of seating arrangement? 28F. Have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Maggie, 32F. Growing up, we were close at times, but often clashed over the smallest things. Our parents always emphasized that family sticks together, which worked for the most part, but Maggie and I have very different personalities. She's extroverted, controlling, and detail-oriented, while I tend to be introverted, spontaneous, and very sensitive. Despite this, I've always tried to support her, even if it sometimes came at the expense of my own comfort. Recently, Maggie got engaged to her fiancé, Derek, 33M, and started planning her wedding. At first, I was genuinely excited for her, and I did my best to help with ideas, attend fittings, and offer opinions when asked. However, it quickly became apparent that her vision for the wedding was incredibly rigid, and she wanted everything exactly as she imagined. I am not a person who enjoys conflict, and I have always been more of a mediator than a rule follower, so I tried to comply. The issue started with the seating arrangement. Maggie and Derek wanted a very specific table layout. They divided guests into groups they deemed compatible and made notes about who should sit next to whom. On the surface, it seemed harmless, but when I saw the draft of the seating chart, I realized that I was being placed at a table with people I hardly know or get along with, while Maggie was separating me from my closest friends. I tried to discuss it calmly with her. I explained that I felt uncomfortable being forced to sit with people I don't know or particularly like, and that it would make me anxious during the reception. Maggie immediately became defensive and said that the seating chart was final and non-negotiable. She argued that she had spent hours organizing it, that it was her day, and that everyone had to follow her plan. I told her I understood that it was her wedding, but that I also had a right to feel comfortable. She then accused me of being selfish and making everything about me. The conversation ended with me leaving in frustration. I thought I might be able to compromise, like asking if I could switch tables with someone else, or at least sit with a friend, but Maggie refused flat out. Over the next few weeks, she tried to guilt-trip me through family and mutual friends, emphasizing that it would look bad if I didn't attend and that she was hurt that I couldn't just put aside my feelings for one day. I tried to explain that this wasn't about ruining her day or refusing to celebrate her happiness, but that it was about my mental well-being. I have generalized anxiety, and social situations with strangers or people I feel awkward around are extremely stressful for me. Being forced into a table with people I can't connect with would likely result in a full-blown panic attack. I offered alternatives. I could attend the ceremony, but skip the reception, or even make an appearance for photographs. Maggie refused all of them, insisting that if I wasn't there for the reception, I shouldn't come at all. At this point, I decided I could not attend the wedding. I wrote her a heartfelt letter explaining my reasons, emphasizing that I loved her, that I wanted her to have a beautiful day, but that attending under the conditions she set would be detrimental to my mental health. I also offered to celebrate with her privately before or after the wedding. The response from Maggie and my family was explosive. Maggie called me selfish, dramatic, and impossible to please. My parents said that she was just trying to make her day perfect, and that I was being unreasonable. Some of my friends privately agreed with me, but I've also received messages from distant relatives questioning whether I am overreacting. Maggie went ahead with the wedding without me, and according to what I've heard from mutual friends, there were multiple tense moments during the reception where she kept mentioning my absence. Some guests told me she seemed visibly upset throughout the night, which I expected, but the criticism directed at me afterward has been relentless. My parents are still upset, though they have started to slowly understand my side. Since the wedding, my relationship with Maggie has been strained. She barely talks to me and has only responded to messages with short, cold replies. Family gatherings have become awkward, and I feel caught in the middle of my own feelings and everyone else's expectations. I've started to second-guess myself, wondering if I truly overreacted, if I should have just sucked it up for one day, or if I'm letting my anxiety dictate my actions too much. I know weddings are supposed to be joyful and celebratory, and I genuinely wanted to support my sister, but I also felt that compromising my mental health to conform to a seating arrangement was unreasonable. My friends keep telling me I did the right thing for myself, but the family backlash is making me question everything. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a seating arrangement, even though it upset her and caused a lot of family tension. Character count, 6,586 if you want. I could draft 2 more equally long variations in slightly different tones, so they all feel like viral Reddit AITA posts. This one is more emotionally charged and conflict-driven. Do you want me to do that? AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she humiliated me in front of my entire extended family? I, 29F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 25F, but over the last few years, things have become tense. Emma has always been a bit dramatic and thrives on attention, which I used to find endearing, but lately, it's been exhausting. My fiancé, Daniel, 31M, and I have been together for almost 4 years, and we got engaged last year. Planning the wedding has been a dream in some ways, but it's also brought a lot of stress, especially when it comes to family. Here's what happened. My sister has a history of making jokes at my expense, and usually I just laugh them off. But she crossed a line at my engagement party. We had a small gathering with close friends and family. I have been talking about wanting a relatively modest wedding, something elegant but not over the top, and I mentioned that I hoped our parents could help with some of the costs. Emma decided this was her moment to shine. During the party, she grabbed the microphone under the guise of giving a toast and started telling a story about my financial naivety and how I once ruined a family vacation because I overspent on something trivial. The story was exaggerated, but the way she delivered it made it sound like I was completely irresponsible with money. People were laughing, but not in a supportive way. It was more like they were shocked and amused at my expense. I was mortified. I tried to laugh it off, but inside, I was furious and embarrassed. Daniel was clearly uncomfortable, and even my parents looked uneasy. After the party, I confronted Emma privately. I told her what she did was humiliating and that she had no right to publicly shame me like that. Her response was that she was just joking and that I needed to learn to take a joke, and she accused me of overreacting. I told her that her behavior crossed a boundary and that it wouldn't be acceptable at the wedding. She rolled her eyes and walked away. Fast forward to the wedding planning. We had finalized the guest list, which included most family members, but I made the decision not to invite Emma. I know this is extreme, but the idea of her standing up at my wedding in front of everyone I love and potentially humiliating me again made me anxious and upset. I thought a lot about it and ultimately decided that I could not risk my special day being ruined. When I told my parents about this decision, they were shocked. They said that not inviting her would cause a family scandal, and that weddings are supposed to be about love and forgiveness. I explained why I felt she couldn't be trusted not to embarrass me, and I also reminded them that it's my wedding, and I should feel safe and happy on my own day. My parents were not happy, but seemed to reluctantly accept it. I sent Emma a message explaining that I couldn't invite her because of her behavior at the engagement party. I tried to be as diplomatic as possible, emphasizing that I wanted her in my life but could not risk another public humiliation. She responded by saying I was being petty and selfish and that I was ruining our relationship over one silly story. She then blocked me on social media and told my parents that I was cutting her out for no reason. Since then, I've had multiple friends and family members weigh in, and the opinions are split. Some people say I'm completely justified for protecting myself and my wedding day. Others say I overreacted and that I should have forgiven her and invited her anyway, maybe with some clear rules. A few distant relatives have even hinted that this could create long-term tension between us that might be irreversible. Daniel has been very supportive and agrees that my wedding should be a safe space. He also points out that having her there could overshadow the day and potentially make me miserable. My parents are still upset, and my father keeps dropping hints about wanting to mediate, but I don't know if I want to risk another confrontation. I keep thinking about the engagement party, and I just can't shake the humiliation. I feel like Emma doesn't respect me or my boundaries, and I can't in good conscience give her a platform to potentially hurt me in front of everyone again. At the same time, part of me wonders if I'm being too rigid and if I should have at least try to find a compromise. So Reddit, AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she publicly humiliated me at my engagement party. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding because of her past behavior towards me. So this is going to be long, but I'll try to lay everything out clearly. I, 33M, have a sister, Emily, 31F, who has always had a bit of a complicated relationship with me. Growing up, we weren't particularly close. We had moments where we genuinely enjoyed each other's company, but those were often overshadowed by her being incredibly manipulative and, frankly, emotionally abusive at times. For instance, when we were kids, if I had a sleepover or a party, she would often invite herself along, claim she was bored or lonely, and then complain for hours if I didn't center attention on her. This was a small thing as a child, but it escalated as we got older. In high school and college, it became more about her trying to control aspects of my life. She would guilt me if I spent time with friends instead of family, criticize my choices, or start arguments over minor disagreements, only to claim she was worried about me when I tried to confront her. I've tried to set boundaries over the years, but she always found ways to push them, usually by playing the victim or using passive-aggressive behavior. My parents, while loving, are not great at enforcing boundaries either, so a lot of this fell on me. Fast forward to a few years ago, I got engaged to my partner, Rachel, 30F. I invited Emily to my wedding, obviously, and that was when things got really tense. She showed up late, made a scene over seating arrangements, and during the reception, she loudly complained about how my bridesmaids weren't including her in girl talk and how she felt left out, despite the fact that she was never asked to participate in any planning. That night, she went as far as to pull me aside and tell me I had ruined our relationship by not prioritizing her, and she stormed out when I tried to explain that my wedding wasn't about her. I was upset but tried to move on, thinking that maybe she just needed time to adjust. Over the years since, she has continued to be difficult. She'll send long texts about imagined slights, demand apologies for things that happened a decade ago, or guilt-trip me if I don't agree with her opinions. I've mostly learned to just limit interactions with her, but our family gatherings are always tense because of her presence. Recently, she got engaged to her partner, Sam, 32M. A few weeks ago, she called me to discuss wedding plans. I was cautious but willing to listen. Almost immediately, she started outlining how important it was that I host her wedding at my house. She insisted that it would be cheaper and more convenient, and that she deserved a backyard wedding because she helped me a lot growing up. This part baffled me because I don't remember her ever helping me significantly beyond minor chores. I tried to explain that my home is not set up for large gatherings, that I have a full-time job, a small yard, and a strict budget for my own family priorities. I even suggested other venues nearby that would accommodate her needs better. She refused to hear any of it, claiming that if I truly loved her, I would sacrifice for her special day like I did for her dreams as a kid. Referencing a time, she was unhappy because I didn't help her make a school project. I tried reasoning with her, but she escalated quickly. She started saying things like, "I guess I was wrong about you being family, and if you're going to be petty, don't bother coming at all." At that point, I told her flat out that I would not be hosting her wedding. I explained that I care about her, but I also have limits, and I cannot be responsible for managing her entire event. I offered help in other ways, connecting her with venues, helping with catering contacts, or even attending to help set up for a couple of hours if I can, but hosting a full-scale wedding in my home is not happening. After that conversation, she blew up my phone with texts for hours. Some of them were emotional appeals, others were outright insults, and a few even went as far as to threaten to expose me at the family reunion if I didn't comply. My parents called me the next day, upset that Emily is hurt and crying, and implied that I should just give in for the sake of family peace. I told them no, that this is not a reasonable demand, and that enabling her behavior won't fix our relationship. It will just make her expect more in the future. Now the situation is messy. Emily has told some family members that I'm being selfish and cruel, which has led to some tension at recent family gatherings. A couple of relatives have quietly asked me to reconsider, saying it would make things easier if I hosted. But honestly, I feel like this is exactly the kind of situation I have always had to set boundaries on, and every time I bend to her whims, it doesn't improve our relationship. It only reinforces her control and behavior. I've had friends read the texts and conversations, and they all say I am in the right, that expecting someone to host a wedding at their personal residence without consent is absurd. But now I'm second-guessing myself a little, because Emily is very convincing in her victim mode, and part of me wonders if I am really being unreasonable. She's my sister, after all, and I do want her to be happy. But at the same time, I don't think sacrificing my home, my energy, and my mental health is reasonable either. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after everything she's done and asking for such an unreasonable favor? Edit. I should also add that she has already booked some tentative dates at a venue I suggested, but she keeps insisting that my house is the ideal choice and that any other option is insufficient. AITA for refusing to let my cousin's wedding overshadow my own anniversary? I, 32F, have always been close to my extended family, but lately, things have been tense. My husband, Dan, 34M, and I recently celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We've been married since we were 22, and both of us have very sentimental views about milestones. Our anniversary was a big deal for us, and we planned a small but meaningful getaway, a weekend at a cabin in the mountains, just the two of us. We even arranged a photographer to do a private photo shoot so we have memories to look back on in the years to come. A week before our anniversary, my cousin Emma, 30F, announced that she was getting married. Normally, this would have been a cause for celebration, but Emma has always had a tendency to be very dramatic and make everything about her. For context, our families are close, and I know she has been dreaming about this wedding for years, but she also tends to have zero awareness of other people's priorities or schedules. Emma immediately began sending mass messages to the family chat about how everyone needed to clear their calendars for her wedding weekend. She was very specific that she wanted all of the adult cousins present, and she emphasized that she expected all the younger members of the family to help with last-minute tasks. When I gently mentioned that I and Dan had already planned our anniversary getaway and photo shoot, she responded with, "Oh, that's cute, but this is way more important. You can do your little trip another time, right?" I tried to compromise, suggesting that we could attend the wedding after our anniversary weekend or even just fly in for the ceremony if needed. Emma insisted that this would be unacceptable because she wanted everyone at her bachelorette events, rehearsal dinner, and the wedding weekend itself. She even said, "You only have one anniversary, but I only get one wedding, and I want all the people I care about to be there. Don't be selfish." At this point, Dan and I had to make a decision. We had already booked everything months in advance, and we really couldn't cancel without losing a significant amount of money. Plus, our anniversary was incredibly meaningful for us. It wasn't just a vacation. It was a celebration of a decade of our relationship, which had included serious struggles and milestones. When we told our families that we wouldn't be attending Emma's wedding, the reaction was surprisingly intense. My parents said, "Emma is family too. You should be there for her." My siblings were divided. Some understood our position, but one of my brothers called us ridiculous for prioritizing an anniversary over a wedding. The family chat devolved into heated arguments, with Emma herself messaging me privately, "I can't believe you're choosing a photo shoot over your cousin's wedding. Are you really that selfish? I thought we were close. Everyone else is rearranging their lives for me." I tried explaining calmly that our decision had nothing to do with caring for her any less, but she accused me of being dramatic and attention-seeking. She then started sharing posts about how family who doesn't support family aren't real family on her social media, tagging other family members in hopes of shaming me. The backlash has been exhausting. Some relatives are still trying to pressure us to attend last minute, even suggesting that we should just skip the anniversary trip for one day of the wedding, which would completely defeat the purpose of the weekend we had planned. Others have told us that we should have compromised more and implied that we're ruining Emma's special day. Dan has been extremely supportive, reminding me that we have the right to celebrate our milestones and that we're not obligated to put ourselves second just because Emma is being dramatic. Still, the family tension has escalated. My aunt even sent me a long email saying I was being ungrateful for not making sacrifices for my cousin. Emma's mother reached out to Dan directly to ask if there was a way he could persuade me to attend the wedding, which felt incredibly invasive. I haven't spoken to Emma directly in a week. My parents are clearly disappointed, and some of my cousins are avoiding me because they feel like I should know better. At the same time, I feel strongly that attending her wedding weekend would have been a huge compromise of our personal boundaries, and that my anniversary should not be considered less important. So, Reddit, I'm left wondering. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because it directly conflicts with a pre-planned and meaningful anniversary celebration. I want to maintain family relationships, but I also want to honor the boundaries that Dan and I have set for ourselves. I've tried to be polite and respectful, but everyone seems to think we owe Emma more than we are comfortable giving, and I'm not sure what else to do without sacrificing something that's important to us. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 28F, have always been close to my sister, Emma, 30F. We grew up inseparable, shared a room until I was 18, and confided in each other about everything. I've always considered her my best friend. That's why the situation I'm in now is tearing me apart. Emma recently got engaged to a man named Ryan, 32M. I met him a few times before the engagement, and while he was a little reserved, I thought he was polite enough. After the engagement, however, things started to escalate in a way that made me really uncomfortable. When she announced her engagement on social media, I congratulated her privately and told her I was happy for her. She was excited and wanted me to help with wedding planning. At first, it seemed normal, but as she got deeper into planning, I noticed Ryan's behavior becoming increasingly controlling. It started small. He insisted that certain vendors were non-negotiable and openly dismissed suggestions I made or that Emma brought up for me. Then it escalated to making snide remarks about our family. During a dinner with my parents, he joked about my career choices in front of everyone and said that I should try to find a real job instead of wasting my time. I brushed it off at first, thinking he might just be awkward, but it kept happening. The breaking point came during a bachelorette party planning session. Emma had asked me to help coordinate a few things with her friends. Ryan decided he needed to supervise and criticized every idea I suggested. At one point, he openly told me that women like me don't really know how to plan anything properly. I tried to laugh it off, but Emma looked uncomfortable, and I finally snapped at him, telling him that his behavior was inappropriate. Ryan responded by saying I was overreacting and that he was just trying to help make sure the wedding doesn't look cheap. I told Emma that I couldn't continue to support her wedding if Ryan kept treating me that way. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the wedding itself, but about being around someone who was belittling me and, frankly, toxic. Emma got defensive and said I was making a big deal out of nothing and that Ryan was just being honest and that I was too sensitive. She said she expected me to attend her wedding and be happy, and that refusing to go would damage our relationship forever. I tried talking to her multiple times, but she kept insisting I was overreacting and that if I didn't show up, I'd be choosing Ryan over her. This made me feel trapped. I love my sister, but I also know I can't subject myself to a weekend of being insulted and undermined in front of our family and friends. So I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I offered to help in other ways, like sending decorations or helping with seating charts remotely, but she refused and said that me not being there in person would be devastating. Our parents are divided. My mom says she understands my reasons and supports me, while my dad thinks I should suck it up for my sister's sake. Emma hasn't spoken to me since I told her, and I've received several messages from mutual friends telling me I should just go to keep the peace. I feel guilty constantly. I keep questioning myself. Am I being unreasonable? Is this about me wanting to be right rather than supporting my sister? But I also remember the way Ryan treated me at multiple events and how I literally felt anxious whenever I knew he would be around. I can't just ignore that and pretend everything is okay. I don't know what I should do. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also can't compromise my own mental health and self-respect. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend her wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? I should also add that I tried talking to Ryan directly at one point, asking him to stop making personal comments, and he laughed and said, "If you can't take a joke, maybe you shouldn't be around adults." That cemented my decision, but it also makes me feel like I'm abandoning my sister in the most important moment of her life. I've been avoiding her calls and messages because every time I pick up, it turns into a lecture about how I'm destroying our relationship and how she can't believe I'm being so dramatic. I've tried explaining that it's not about destroying the relationship, but protecting myself, but she refuses to hear it. I don't know if my expectations are too high. I just want to be respected and treated with basic decency. Is that really too much to ask? I've stayed out of the wedding planning for weeks now, only interacting when absolutely necessary. But it seems like no matter what I do, I'm painted as the villain. I also worry that other family members will judge me. I've had one cousin say that I should go and grin and bear it, but another cousin privately told me that Ryan has been rude to other people too. I'm trying to stay firm, but every time I think about missing my sister's wedding, I feel this mix of relief and heartache that's almost unbearable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? AITA for refusing to lie to my sister about a family heirloom she lost? This all started around 6 months ago. My family has this tradition where we pass down a certain set of jewelry pieces, mostly rings and brooches, from generation to generation. The pieces are old, some dating back to the late 1800s, and while they aren't worth a fortune in monetary terms, the sentimental value is huge. My sister, Laura, has always been reckless with her things. She loses or breaks something at least once a year, which drives our mom insane. I've always been more careful, so my parents entrusted me with the most valuable piece, a brooch that belonged to our great-grandmother. They also gave Laura a less valuable ring to wear for special occasions. About 6 months ago, Laura came over to my apartment for a family dinner. At some point during the evening, she casually mentioned the brooch. She said, "Hey, do you still have that ugly old brooch from Grandma?" I kind of misplaced mine. I froze because she didn't have a brooch. She had the ring. I laughed it off, thinking she was joking, but she looked genuinely confused. She started rummaging through her purse, her coat, even the coat pockets I knew she hadn't worn in weeks. I could tell she was starting to panic. That's when she admitted, "Okay, I think I lost it at my friend's apartment last weekend." I immediately asked which one she meant, and it clicked. She had somehow gotten it into her bag when we visited her friend a few weeks ago. She had the brooch. She had worn it to a party without asking, lost it, and now she was panicking. I told her calmly that I didn't take it or move it. I hadn't seen it since she arrived. She got upset and said, "Well, you have to help me cover this up. Mom and Dad would never forgive me." I told her no. I explained that she needed to admit the truth, and the family could try to find it or accept that it was gone. She started crying, saying I was being cruel, that she didn't deserve to be treated like a criminal, and that it was just a mistake. The next day, she went to our parents and told them she had lost the brooch, but claimed she had borrowed it with my permission. She didn't mention the party or how she actually lost it. My parents were upset, but didn't accuse anyone. They just wanted the brooch found. I refused to lie and support her version of events. This caused Laura to blow up. She accused me of betraying family trust and even started posting passive-aggressive messages on social media, hinting that I was hoarding things from the family. Over the next few weeks, she kept pressuring me to lie, offering to pay me, begging, and even threatening to go no contact with me if I didn't support her story. I stayed firm. I also asked her to look harder for it, because we were still hoping it would turn up. One evening, she showed up at my door, crying and apologizing. She admitted that she had accidentally thrown the brooch into a donation bag at her friend's apartment, and it had already been donated to charity. She begged me to keep it a secret from our parents, saying it would ruin her life. I told her the truth had to come out. She threatened to stop speaking to me, but I called our mom the next day and explained everything. Mom was disappointed in both of us, Laura for losing it, and me for waiting a few days to tell her, but ultimately said she was glad the truth was finally out. Laura didn't speak to me for 2 months after that. Eventually, she came around, but she still brings it up occasionally, saying I was overreacting and that I could have just saved her from being embarrassed. I, on the other hand, feel like honesty was important, even if it meant being temporarily unpopular. Some extended family members have weighed in, saying maybe I should have let it slide to avoid conflict, but I just can't bring myself to lie about something like this. My partner supports me, saying I did the right thing, but even they admitted it was a tough call because it strained family relationships. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie for my sister about a family heirloom she lost. Characters, 6,600. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a disagreement about my nephew. I've, 34M, been struggling with whether I'm overreacting or not, and I need an outside perspective. This situation has really divided my family, and I'm worried I might be seen as the villain here. I've tried to reason with everyone, but I feel like my boundaries are being completely ignored. So, some background. My sister, 29F, has a son, Ben, 6, from a previous relationship. She has always been a little, I'll say unconventional, in her parenting approach. I try not to judge, but I have strong opinions about safety and discipline because of my own experiences growing up. Ben is a sweet kid, but he's very energetic and can get out of control if not supervised properly. My sister tends to indulge him, and while I understand wanting to be a fun parent, it's caused a lot of issues, particularly when my nephew is around other kids. A few weeks ago, my sister got engaged to her now fiancé, 30M. I was genuinely happy for her, but as the wedding planning progressed, I started noticing things that made me uncomfortable. She wanted to have the ceremony outdoors at a public park, which I thought could be fine if managed properly. But then I learned she was inviting almost 200 people, including a ton of children, with no real security or supervision plan. I voiced my concern about it being chaotic, especially for Ben, who tends to run off, climb things, and generally ignores warnings. She brushed it off, saying, "Don't worry, it'll be fine." Then things escalated. She asked me to help coordinate seating for the kids and adults. I tried to explain that I wasn't comfortable being responsible for all the children, especially Ben, because I have my own responsibilities and I don't want to feel blamed if something happens. She got defensive, saying, "You're being dramatic, it's not that hard. Ben's not a wild animal." I sighed, thinking, okay, maybe she's right, but the tension was definitely growing. The breaking point came last week. My sister asked me if I could spend the whole day of the wedding watching Ben, so her and her fiancé could focus on the ceremony and photos. I refused, telling her I wasn't comfortable being in charge of a 6-year-old all day in a public park with hundreds of people. She got upset and said, "You've never liked Ben anyway, so why bother coming if you don't want to help?" I tried to clarify that it wasn't about liking or disliking Ben, but about being put in a position I don't feel capable of handling responsibly. She then suggested I just let him run around and enjoy himself, and I said no. I felt like that was irresponsible and unsafe. She then started texting our parents, saying I was throwing a fit over a simple favor and refusing to be a part of the family celebration. At that point, I felt cornered. I told her I wouldn't be attending if my presence was going to revolve around supervising Ben, because I didn't want to spend the day stressed and angry. This led to what has become a full-blown family debate. My parents and most of my relatives think I'm being unreasonable. They've been saying things like, "It's your sister's special day, just suck it up," and "You're making this about yourself instead of celebrating with family." On the other hand, my best friend and my partner think I'm justified. They argue that I'm being asked to take on an unreasonable responsibility that I never agreed to, and that I have every right to set boundaries, even if it means missing the wedding. Since I said I wouldn't attend, my sister has been sending long texts and even calling me multiple times a day, asking me to reconsider. She accused me of punishing her and Ben and choosing a grudge over family. I've tried explaining calmly that it's about safety and my own limits, not about punishing anyone, but she isn't hearing it. My parents are particularly upset. They say I'm breaking the family apart over what they consider a minor issue. My aunt even suggested I'm being selfish and should just grin and bear it. I understand their point of view to some extent. This is a big family event, and my absence will be noticed, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm being asked to compromise my principles and comfort for the sake of appearances. I know I could just go and avoid Ben for the day, but given how chaotic she tends to be with him, I'm worried that the event will be stressful and unsafe, and that I might end up blamed for something beyond my control. I also feel like attending under those conditions would send a message that it's okay for people to disregard my limits. I've considered trying to compromise, maybe showing up for the ceremony and photos, then leaving before the kid-heavy activities start, but I haven't told my sister yet. I don't know if that's fair to her or if it'll even be accepted. So, Reddit, AITA here. Am I being unreasonable by refusing to attend a major family event because I don't want to be put in charge of my nephew? Or should I just suck it up for my sister's big day? I want to maintain my relationship with my sister and family, but I also feel like my boundaries are being completely dismissed, and that makes me question whether attending would even be enjoyable or responsible. I am honestly torn. On one hand, family celebrations are important, but on the other hand, being forced into a situation I'm uncomfortable with feels like it would create more harm than good. I just don't know if standing my ground makes me the bad guy here. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding guest list include my ex-boyfriend, even though it upsets her. I, 28F, have been having a really stressful few months leading up to my sister's wedding, and I feel like I'm stuck in a situation where either I stand my ground or I end up feeling completely disrespected. I want an honest perspective on whether I'm being unreasonable. My sister, Megan, 30F, is getting married in about 3 months. She and her fiancé have been planning this wedding for over a year, and while I've helped in small ways, I haven't been involved in every decision. The main issue revolves around her guest list and specifically my ex-boyfriend Ethan, 29M. Ethan and I dated for 3 years, and we broke up about 6 months ago. The breakup was mutual at first, but it ended really badly because he had been cheating on me for the last year of our relationship. I found out only after I confronted him about some inconsistencies in his stories, and when I found proof, the breakup escalated into a lot of yelling, threats to spread private information, and general nastiness. Since then, we've had zero contact. He tried to reach out once or twice, but I blocked him immediately. Megan knows the details of the breakup because I confided in her at the time. She was supportive initially, but since she got engaged, she started to push for Ethan to be included in the wedding. Her argument is that Ethan was such a big part of my life for years, and that it would feel awkward for the family if he weren't there. She keeps bringing up the idea that we should just get over it for the sake of family peace, and that he's not that bad anymore. I've told her repeatedly that I do not want Ethan at the wedding. My reasons are emotional safety. Seeing him at a formal event where family and mutual friends are gathered would be extremely uncomfortable for me. Past behavior. The way he handled the breakup included lying, cheating, and emotional manipulation. I do not trust that he would behave appropriately. Respect for my boundaries. This is a major life event for Megan, but I'm still her sister, and she knows this man hurt me deeply. It feels unfair to pressure me into a situation where I might have to interact with someone I don't want to. Megan's response has been frustrating. She has accused me of holding a grudge, being petty, and making the wedding all about my feelings. She argues that Ethan has apologized and that he deserves a chance to show he's changed. She also says that the family will notice his absence and might feel awkward about it. Her fiancé, on the other hand, seems to understand my concerns and has even suggested creating a separate list of people I'm comfortable with. But Megan brushes it off and insists that I'm being unreasonable and selfish. Things came to a head last week. Megan casually mentioned that she had already talked to Ethan about the wedding and he's really excited to come. I was shocked and upset because she hadn't discussed this with me beforehand. I told her firmly that if Ethan attends, I will leave the wedding. She yelled at me, saying that I'm ruining her wedding and that she can invite whoever she wants. I explained that this isn't about controlling her wedding, but about protecting myself and my mental health. I also told her that asking me to attend an event where I know my abuser is going to be present is unreasonable. She then started saying that I was overreacting, that this is the only time this could be a family issue, and that I'm being dramatic. I've tried reasoning with her, explaining that my comfort should matter to my own sister, but she refuses to back down. She's even implied that if I don't come, I'm breaking up the family and taking the fun out of her big day. I've also talked to my parents, and they're in a weird spot. They understand why I don't want Ethan there, but they also feel torn because Megan is their daughter too, and they don't want to cause conflict. My mom suggested I try toughing it out for the sake of the wedding, while my dad said he doesn't think I should have to deal with someone who hurt me. At this point, I made it clear that if Ethan shows up, I won't attend. Megan says I'm being dramatic and selfish, and her fiancé says I have the right to feel how I feel, but he can't force his fiancée to listen to me. The rest of the family seems to be taking sides subtly. Some agree with me, some with Megan. It's created tension and awkwardness every time we talk about the wedding now. I feel like I'm being pressured into forgiving someone who betrayed me in a very serious way just because my sister wants family harmony. It's not just about Ethan being there. It's about the principle that my boundaries are not being respected by someone who should be the closest person in my life. I do not want to deal with seeing him, interacting with him, or being in the same room as him for an entire day. I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in my stance. I love my sister, and I want to celebrate her wedding, but I can't compromise my emotional safety. I've tried to negotiate, suggested alternatives like him attending the reception only or having separate seating areas, but Megan dismisses all of them. She insists it's all or nothing, and I feel like I'm the villain in her story now. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding if my ex-boyfriend is there, even though it's making her upset, and she says I'm ruining her day. Character count, 6,582 if you want. I can draft 2 more versions with slightly different twists and endings, in case you want variety for publishing or posting. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house, even though she says I'm being unreasonable. I, 32M, have lived in my current apartment for about 5 years. It's a small, two-bedroom place in the city, and I live alone. I value my space a lot, and I'm very particular about who I let into my home. My younger sister, Emma, 28F, has always been more carefree and spontaneous, which has caused some tension in the past. Recently, this tension has escalated, and I'm not sure if I'm being the asshole. About 6 months ago, Emma started dating someone named Kyle, 30M. At first, I didn't think much of him, but after a few brief encounters, I realized that Kyle is very intrusive and doesn't respect boundaries. He's the type to overstay his welcome at friends' houses, borrow things without asking, and make big decisions without consulting anyone. Emma seems to overlook these behaviors because she's smitten, but I find them frustrating. The conflict started a few weeks ago. Emma called me and asked if Kyle could stay at my apartment for a few nights while he was in town for work. She said his hotel reservation had fallen through and that he didn't want to spend that much money on another hotel. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that and offered to help him find a cheaper hotel nearby instead. Emma got upset and accused me of being mean and unsupportive. I tried to explain my reasoning. My apartment is small, and I don't have a spare bedroom for guests. Kyle and I do not have a friendly or comfortable relationship, and having him stay in my home would make me anxious. I also reminded Emma that I had hosted her friends in the past when I knew them well and felt comfortable, but I don't have that comfort with Kyle. She insisted that I was overreacting and that he would be on his best behavior. The argument escalated over text. She said that I was being selfish and that families should help each other out, especially during emergencies. I responded that this was not an emergency, that there are plenty of hotels nearby, and that it's not reasonable to expect someone to open their home to someone they barely know. She then threatened not to visit me anymore if I didn't agree. 2 days later, Kyle showed up at my building unannounced. I wasn't home at the time, but my neighbor told me he had waited in the lobby and tried to come up to my apartment. I called Emma, furious, and she said I was overreacting and that she thought I wouldn't mind. I told her that if he showed up at my door again, I would call the police for trespassing. She accused me of escalating things unnecessarily and said I was being dramatic. I decided to set firm boundaries. I blocked Kyle from contacting me directly and told Emma that she can visit whenever she likes, but he is not welcome. I offered to meet her somewhere else if she wanted to hang out together. Emma responded by unfollowing me on social media and telling other family members that I was being unreasonable and refusing to support her. Some of my family members have been messaging me, asking why I won't help a guy in need and suggesting I should compromise. I feel like I'm being unfairly judged for simply wanting to maintain my personal space and not let someone into my home who I don't trust or like. I've never kicked anyone out in my life, and I've been generous with friends and family when it felt appropriate. But Kyle crossed multiple boundaries already, and I have a right to say no. I've tried to talk to Emma calmly several times, explaining that I'm happy to support her in other ways and that I'm not refusing to help her, just that I am refusing to let her boyfriend into my private space. She has refused to hear me out and keeps framing me as cruel and unloving. I understand that families often help each other out, and I'm all for supporting loved ones, but this feels different. Kyle is not a family member. I barely know him, and I don't feel safe or comfortable having him stay in my home. My apartment is small, my privacy is important to me, and I feel like Emma is asking me to sacrifice my comfort for someone I don't even like. I also want to clarify that I'm not completely closed off. I've offered to take Emma out for meals, help her with errands, or even help her find a nearby hotel for Kyle. I've tried to compromise, but she refuses any solution that doesn't involve him staying with me. The situation has created a lot of tension in my family. Other siblings are starting to take sides, and some distant relatives have even started messaging me asking why I'm being so harsh. I feel like if I give in now, it will set a precedent where Kyle, or someone like him, can impose on me anytime they feel like it. But refusing makes me feel like I'm the bad guy in everyone else's eyes. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my apartment. Even though she insists that I'm being unreasonable and unhelpful, I feel like I'm within my rights, but everyone keeps telling me I should compromise, and I'm not sure if I'm missing something. I want to maintain a healthy relationship with my sister, but I also don't want to feel pressured to host someone I don't trust in my own home. I'm genuinely torn because I don't want to hurt her, but I also don't want to sacrifice my peace and personal boundaries. Character count 6,573 if you want. I can also write a second story in the same style, but with an even crazier twist, like a stranger turning up and escalating the conflict to a huge family drama. It would feel very viral Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie about why I can't go. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Lily, 32F. Growing up, we were extremely close, but in our late teens, things started to shift. She became controlling and extremely competitive, often turning family events into competitions or drama-filled moments. Despite that, I've tried to maintain a cordial relationship, especially around family events. Recently, Lily got engaged to someone I'll call Mark, 33M. I like Mark enough. He's a nice guy, not overbearing, and seems genuinely happy with her. But from the start, I noticed Lily's wedding planning had a lot of red flags for me. She's very particular and judgmental, and every minor detail seems like it could be a source of conflict. Invitations, seating arrangements, gift lists, even the choice of flowers. Everything is scrutinized, and nothing is ever good enough if it's not exactly how she envisioned it. When she officially invited me to the wedding, she asked if I could arrive a day early to help with decorations and setup. I told her I couldn't because of work commitments, which is true. She sighed dramatically, but I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks ago, she called me crying and said she needed a favor. She told me that her maid of honor, her best friend since childhood, had a family emergency and wouldn't be able to come to the rehearsal dinner or help with the wedding day at all. Lily then asked me to cover for her. She wanted me to tell people that I was also unavailable for the rehearsal dinner and ceremony because of a serious illness in my family. Not just skipping a day or two, she wanted me to fabricate a story that would justify my total absence to everyone attending. She claimed it was to avoid hurt feelings and keep the peace. I was stunned. I told her I wasn't comfortable lying about something so serious. Pretending a family member is critically ill to cover for a friend? That feels wrong, and I don't want to start her marriage with something like that on my conscience. I suggested other ways to handle the situation. She could announce that her maid of honor had to miss it due to unavoidable circumstances, or simply be honest with her guests. But she got upset and accused me of not supporting her and being selfish. I explained that I could still help with tasks like addressing invitations, giving advice on decorations, or coordinating things online, but I simply couldn't lie to her family and friends. She said that wasn't enough and that if I didn't lie, she wouldn't invite me to the wedding at all. I told her that if she wanted me there, it would have to be on terms that I'm morally comfortable with. She hung up, crying and accusing me of choosing ethics over family. Since then, we haven't spoken much. Last week, she texted me again, saying she was disappointed and that our relationship might be permanently damaged over this. I told her I still love her and want to be in her life, but I can't lie for her. A few days ago, she sent another text that basically said, "If you don't lie, don't bother showing up. We'll assume you don't care." At this point, I feel trapped. Part of me wants to attend just to support her on her wedding day, but the thought of lying to all of our friends and family feels unbearable. I don't want to start her marriage by being complicit in something that feels morally wrong. My parents are torn. They think Lily is overreacting and that I'm justified in my decision not to lie, but they also keep hinting that I should just go and keep my mouth shut because it's her special day. Friends are divided too. Some say I'm right for standing my ground. Others say that I'm being too rigid and should prioritize family harmony over ethics. I've considered talking to Mark about it, but I feel that could backfire, and I don't want to create more drama. I even thought about going, but being completely honest if anyone asks why I'm there or why I missed parts of the wedding. But that seems like a minefield because I know Lily would feel betrayed and embarrassed. Honestly, I'm exhausted by the thought of attending a wedding where I feel I'm expected to be complicit in dishonesty. I know I might be seen as dramatic, or self-righteous, but I truly believe lying about a serious illness crosses a line. At the same time, I'm worried that by not attending, I'm alienating my sister permanently. So here I am. I've decided not to lie, and that probably means I won't be attending. But I'm questioning whether I'm really the jerk here. Am I overreacting? Am I being too stubborn and letting principles ruin family relationships? Or is refusing to lie in this situation the morally correct choice? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she asked me to lie about a family emergency? AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend live with us, even though he insists she needs a place to stay? I, 32M, have always been pretty firm about my personal space and household boundaries. My wife, Emma, 30F, and I have lived in our home for about 5 years, and we've spent a lot of time making it a comfortable space for ourselves. We love hosting friends occasionally, but we draw the line when it comes to long-term guests because we value our privacy and routine. A few weeks ago, my younger brother, Josh, 28M, called me in a panic. He had apparently broken up with his girlfriend of 2 years, Melissa, in a messy way, and she had nowhere to stay. According to him, she needs a safe place to live because she's in a rough patch emotionally and financially. Josh said he tried helping her find a short-term rental, but it didn't work out, and he thought it would be best if she stayed with us temporarily. He was very insistent that this is only for a few weeks, and he said I would be doing a good deed by letting her stay. I told him up front that I wasn't comfortable with that. I explained that our house isn't set up for extra long-term guests, and that Emma and I have routines and responsibilities that would be disrupted. I also told him that we value our mental health and privacy, and having someone move in unplanned would create tension. Josh got upset and started arguing that I was being selfish and unkind. He said Melissa had nowhere else to go and that I should put family first in this situation. A few days later, Josh called again. This time he said he was desperate and implied that if I didn't let Melissa stay, he might have to do something drastic, like letting her couch surf at a friend's place that he described as unsafe. At that point, Em and I sat down and discussed it seriously. We both agreed we couldn't say yes, so I called Josh to tell him firmly that Melissa could not stay with us. I offered to help him research other options, like temporary sublets, short-term rentals, or even shelters if she was in immediate need. I tried to keep my tone supportive, but firm. Josh completely lost it. He accused me of being cold, cruel, and unwilling to help family in need. He said Melissa was going to be homeless and alone, and that I was responsible if anything bad happened to her. He told me that he didn't understand how I could be so heartless, given everything I've been through in my own life. He also started sending me messages every day demanding that I change my mind. Melissa herself contacted me once via text, thanking me for considering it but saying she understood. I haven't seen her in person. Meanwhile, Josh has stopped speaking to me except for passive-aggressive messages through social media and mutual friends. Several family members have reached out to say I should reconsider, claiming I'm being too rigid and that this is a moral issue rather than a practical one. Since then, I've been feeling incredibly stressed. On one hand, I feel justified in protecting my household and respecting my own limits. On the other hand, I feel guilty because I'm aware Melissa is in a vulnerable position and my brother thinks I'm abandoning them both. Emma has been very supportive, reminding me that we can't solve everyone's problems and that boundaries are important, but I can tell she's also worried about the tension this has caused in our family. Some friends have told me I should have found a compromise, like letting Melissa stay in the guest room for a week or two. I considered it, but even that felt like it could open the door to a longer stay and create stress for both Emma and me. I also don't want to risk turning my home into a temporary shelter because I'm not equipped to handle that responsibility, and I feel it's unfair to expect us to. I know Josh is genuinely concerned about his ex, and maybe he's feeling desperate, but I can't shake the feeling that he's putting me in an impossible position where any choice I make will cause harm. I've tried to be helpful in other ways, researching rentals, offering rides, helping with logistics, but apparently that isn't enough for him. So, Reddit, AITA here for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay at my house, even though he says she has nowhere else to go. I'm trying to be compassionate, but I also feel like I can't sacrifice my household stability and our mental health for this. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us, even though he has nowhere else to go. This all started about 6 months ago. I, 28F, live in a 3-bedroom apartment with my husband, 30M, and our dog. We've always been pretty open to helping family when they're in a bind, but we also have our boundaries. My sister, Emma, 26F, recently broke up with her long-term boyfriend, and she started dating someone new, Jake, 27M. At first, I thought he was fine. He seemed charming enough and polite, but soon enough, I started noticing some red flags. Jake doesn't really have a job. He does some freelance work occasionally, but it's not steady. Emma has always been the more responsible one financially, and she's been helping him out for months. I get that people can be struggling and sometimes need a hand, but he also has a history of asking for favors and never really contributing. A few weeks ago, Emma called me in tears because Jake supposedly had nowhere to stay after a minor argument with his parents. She was asking if he could crash at our place, just for a few days until he figured things out. I immediately felt uncomfortable. I told her that our apartment is small, and we already have our own routines. My husband agreed. He's worried about privacy, space, and the stress that comes with having someone who doesn't pull their weight living with us. Emma got upset, saying I was being unreasonable and selfish. She argued that Jake is in a rough spot and that family is supposed to help each other. I tried to explain that helping someone financially or with resources doesn't always mean letting them live in your home indefinitely, especially someone we barely know and who has a history of relying on others. After that, Emma didn't speak to me for a few days. When she finally did, she told me that Jake had decided to stay with a friend temporarily, but she hinted that he might need a place again soon. I told her that if he truly needed help, I could assist in finding affordable housing, helping with job applications, or even lending some money for a deposit, but I wasn't comfortable having him move in with us. Things seemed to cool down, but then last weekend, Emma came over unannounced with Jake. She said she wanted to talk things through in person and ended up asking again if he could stay with us just for a week. I explained, calmly but firmly, that our answer hadn't changed and that a week would disrupt our lives in ways we weren't prepared for. That's when things escalated. Jake started arguing with me directly, saying that it's not fair for him to be turned away and that my sister has nowhere else to go. My husband and I both tried to remain calm, but became tense. Emma sided with him, raising her voice and saying we were letting her boyfriend down and that our relationship as siblings mattered more than our discomfort. I told her that our relationship matters too, and that I can't compromise my home life for someone who hasn't shown responsibility or respect for our boundaries. Emma left angrily, and Jake sulked. The next day, my mother called me upset because she heard from Emma that I had refused to help family in crisis. I tried explaining our side, but my mom said I should at least give him a chance since he's young and clearly struggling. I understand the sentiment, but it feels like it completely ignores the fact that I already help in other ways. I've offered to help him find a job, lend him money, and even help him network, but having him live in our apartment feels like a completely different level of obligation. The worst part is that Emma keeps bringing it up whenever we talk. She says I'm heartless and that our family should support each other no matter what. Jake, from what I hear, still expects me to change my mind, and I'm worried about future confrontations if I continue to say no. I've been stressing about this constantly. On one hand, I understand that people get into rough spots, and I genuinely want to help in ways that don't harm my own household. On the other hand, I feel like setting boundaries is being portrayed as me being unloving or selfish, which is really frustrating. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in with us, even though he has nowhere else to go. Some additional context. We have a 3-bedroom apartment. We use one room as a home office. Giving up space would mean converting the office or taking over one of our bedrooms, which would disrupt both work and sleep routines. Jake is generally polite when he's not being confrontational, but he has a long history of relying on others financially and socially. We have a dog who gets stressed when there are multiple unfamiliar people in the apartment. I'm trying to be helpful, but I also have to protect my home life. I just want a perspective outside of my family circle because it's hard to be objective. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.